What's good, everyone? Infamous Legacy here, and I know you guys have been waiting on this one. This is my Captain Boomerang infinite build. You guys already seen the clips. It's not just about infinite traversal. We got infinite grenades, we got shield regeneration going on, all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get this video started and break down this build for you guys. Before I go ahead and break down what gear I'm using and what firearms, this build is going to be all about villain synergy and also Bane's Rage tier bonuses. I'm not just using that tier 3 bonus, I'm also using a piece that gives me a tier 1 bonus. And then also these notorious pieces will give me some villain synergy bonuses as well. So let's go ahead and get it started with the first firearm and why I'm using this firearm. Make sure you guys complete all the Toyman missions so you can unlock the ability to elite your gear. That gives you the opportunity to reroll on all items augments and choose whichever augments you want on a gear piece or firearm. Now with the first firearm that I'm using, it's the Master Punch Through Infamous Shotgun from the tier 1 Bane's Rage gear set. The reason why I'm using this one is because the piece bonus from the first slot, each melee hit on an enemy has a 50% chance to craze it and a 50% chance to drop grenade ammo. So this is going to help you with those infinite grenades. And when it comes to the augments that I'm using, let me go ahead and explain that to you guys as well. So I have, you already know, a 9.5 critical hit chance. You guys can get this to about 10%. Then we got 14% shield harvest chance. That's good for your health regeneration ability. And then we got a 50% damage to crazed enemies with this firearm, because with all the enemies you're going to be fighting, they are going to be majority of the time crazed. So you might as well go with this particular firearm because it will help you do that extra damage. And again, make sure you complete all those Toyman missions so then you can activate TOTS to pick which augments you want. Now let's go ahead to the second firearm. Second firearm that I'm using on this infinite build is the Master Pain Machine SMG, which comes from the Bane's Fury tier 3 infamy set. The reason why I'm using this is because it gives me those piece bonuses that I can get. And this is the first out of the 3 tier 3 gear pieces that I'll be showing you. The first bonus that I can get is you deal 4% more damage to an enemy for each 1% of their health that is missing. And then we also have the augments. So with the SMG, I'm honestly not using the SMG a lot. So with these augments, you can modify to whatever you want. The shotgun is where I will be using that as my primary weapon. So with the augments that I've put on for the second firearm is I went with the 8% critical hit chance if I do use this firearm. Then the second augment I got is the 22% critical hit damage for this firearm. I might eventually switch this to the 10 to 15% shield harvest chance to get some health back. So I might eventually switch that to this. And then I went with the 50% damage to infused enemies. Moving on to the melee piece, I am using a Master Two Faces Persuader. And by using this, I'm also getting a villain synergy bonus with my Bane gear set gear pieces. Harvesting enemies now have a 100% chance of dropping grenade ammo, which will help with that infinite grenades. And also increases grenade damage by 100% for 20 seconds. And now with the augments that I'm using, this is all about getting regeneration either on your suicide strike, your traversal attack, or your health. So I got 4% suicide strike resource regeneration. And then I got 5% traversal attack resource from melee hits. So every time I hit an enemy with a melee hit, I have 5% traversal attack resource coming from that. Then I have 5% shield regeneration on a melee hit as well. So when I'm hitting enemies, I'm also able to get some health back. Now with the grenade that I'm using the master version of Reign of Bane, which comes from the tier 3 Bane's Fury infamy set. This will also help me unlock the second piece bonus. And to break down the second piece bonus, critical hits on enemies below 50% trigger Bane's Fury. This increases damage by 50% and damage to crazed enemies by 50% for 60 seconds. Each stack of Bane's Fury also adds a 5% chance to cause the enemy to explode on death and spread that craze affliction to enemies within 10 meters. The Bane's Fury can also stack up to 15 times. So that's the second piece bonus. Now with the augments that I'm using, so if you look at the second and third augment on the grenade, it's going to be relating to a lot of resource generation and health regeneration. So let's go ahead and look at that. And since I'm getting infinite grenades, I obviously have this to 20% explosion radius. And then the second augment, this is where I'm getting health regeneration going with every enemy hit with the grenade. So 2% shield regenerated for each enemy hit with the grenade. Always make sure you go with the hit and not the killed, because obviously when you're running those higher mastery missions, those enemies are not going to die easily. So it's better to hit them with the grenade so you can get some health back. And then same thing goes for the third one, but this is related to your traversal attack. So you get 3% traversal attack resource for each enemy hit with the grenade. This will help you get your traversal attack constantly, so you can just continue spamming that while you're fighting these enemies. Next gear piece that I'm using is the shield mod from the tier 3 Bane's Fury Infamy set. This is the master version of the unstoppable shield mod. I like this one right here because it does have a nice gear perk where there are 4 or more crazed enemies within 20 meters of you. You can deal 100% more damage, and there's a damage reduction where you can take 50% less damage while they're within 20 meters of you. And also, it helps me unlock that last and third piece bonus that I need from the Bane's Fury Infamy set. That's where all enemies hit with a traversal attack become crazed, and each enemy killed while Bane's Fury is active generates 10% traversal attack resource. So I was able to get that third piece bonus, and then that gear perk right there, really nice. Now let's go ahead and tell you about those augments that I have. So with the augments, I have a 7% critical hit chance. Then I got 2 10% traversal attack resource generations just to help with the traversal attack. Another gear piece that I'm using is a traversal mod for Captain Boomerang. It is called the Turtle Still Force Conduit. If you do have the master version of this, kudos to you. I'm still trying to get that at the time of recording this video. But this gear piece has a very good perk, and the perk is each second spent standing still adds a stack of Still Force Conduit. Still Force Conduit is like your damage reduction, like your defense ability. And when you are moving around, it removes that stack of Still Force Conduit and adds a stack of Speed Force Exhaustion. So Speed Force Exhaustion is like a damage buff. Speed Force Exhaustion increases damage done by 50% per stack. Each effect can stack up to 10 times. So this is a really good gear perk on this Traversal mod. Now in terms of the augments I use, just more catering to that traversal ability. 15% of Speedster's surprise damage applied to enemies within 10 meters. Then I got 10% traversal attack resource generation.
Really specifics.
And then the last one is 50% more damage to enemies that are within 5 meters of you. The neck mod that I have right here, Hugo Strange's specialization. You can also get the master version of this, but it does grant me that villain synergy bonus that I want. Each time you craze an enemy, you gain 50% damage increase for 30 seconds, up to a maximum of 250%. So this is a great villain synergy bonus for DPSing. And then the gear perk is actually good as well. After afflicting 5 enemies with the same affliction, so let's say Venom Frenzy, which is like the craze affliction, you are now immune to damage from enemies afflicted by that affliction for 20 seconds. And now let me go ahead and show you guys the augments I use. So I got the 20% electrify resistance because there are a lot of the missions in the endgame content where we get electrify. So that 20% kind of helps. If you are trying to go for more of a DPS route, you can go with 10 to 15% grenade damage to grunt enemies. So that's another thing that you can use. The second one I have is 25% critical hit damage.
I got you. Yeah.
And then I got the 50% damage to crazed enemies. Lastly, the final piece that I'm using is Jinx's Unlucky Coin. It is a lucky charm. You can also get a master version of this. This is a great lucky charm gear piece that you can use when it comes to DPS and afflicted enemies. And the perk that you have on this gear piece is you gain 750% increased damage to a specific affliction for 20 seconds. This effect rotates through available afflictions in the following order. So it goes from Diablo Blaze to Deep Freeze to Livewire Bolt, then to Venom Frenzy, and you also gain 250% increased damage to afflicted enemies. So great lucky charm here. It's very common on a lot of builds, not just Captain Boomerang. So great one to use right here, especially for that DPS and against those afflicted enemies. And now when it comes to the augment, I'm using the 24% grenade pickup radius because I am going to be getting that grenade ammo going on. I'll be able to pick it up within that 24% plus radius. Then I have the 25% critical hit damage, and I ended off with the last augment of the 50% plus damage to crazed enemies. Now with the talents, let me go through all the tiers that I've spec'd into. And before I do that, there is one specific tier that I do want to break down. Even though I'm using a shotgun, I did go with the melee hits cause enemies to take 50% more damage from firearms for 10 seconds. This is because I am going to be juggling enemies up in the air with my melee hit and then shooting them with the firearm. And also gives me that opportunity to get some grenade ammo. So that's why I've spec'd into that. So if you do also want to pause the video while I'm going through all these tiers within these talent trees, go ahead. If you do have any questions, again, let me know in the comments below. The final aspect of this build video are the squad skills, and it really depends on how many squad skill points you have. Obviously, I only have about 104, which is not enough to really spec into the other things that I want. For example, traversal attack damage, suicide strike damage, damage dealt during a squad ultimate, or even the critical hit damage. So what I went ahead and did first was I went ahead and maxed out the grenade ammo drop chance, which will help with the infinite grenade. And then I also maxed out the critical hit chance, the damage to brute enemies and grunt enemies, and then some defense with the damage reduction from grunt enemies and working on the damage reduction from brute enemies. So again, really depends on how many squad skill points you have. If you have a lot, that's amazing because then you'll be able to spec into a lot more things. There we go, everyone. That was a breakdown of my Captain Boomerang Infinite build. You guys already saw what it can do. I broke down everything for you guys. You guys can get infinite traversal from this build, infinite grenades. It also has health regeneration that's beneficial as well. And this build has helped me get to Mastery 75 so far. I obviously know I can keep going higher. Really depends on the grind and how much you're grinding into the game. But if you do enjoy build videos like this or other Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League videos, hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time, I'm out. You guys take care. Peace.